Welcome to Redbird Classic Football Games. We're here with head coach Pat Ryan. Tonight we'll go back to 2009 to the Class 4A state championship game between Metamora and the Geneseo Maple Leafs. Coach, this was a game, kind of a throwback to the 1970s. Both meeting in the state championship game. It was kind of a little bit of a surprise, probably a little bit for both teams, but nonetheless, we were in Champaign, and a lot of people, after an early season loss to Washington, probably didn't think we'd be there. But the line kept getting better, the backs kept getting better, the defense kept getting better, and there we were in Champaign.
Oh, you're exactly right. It brought back a lot of old memories. Anytime those two teams get together, it's going to bring a lot of history back together. But for the kids that night, it was very rewarding. It was really a struggle early in the year, and the kids they were able to hang in there and continue to buy in what we had to do to get better, and we just saw this team progress weekly, and it was really fun. And we don't have to travel too far back for this one. This one's still relatively close in everybody's mind, and it was just a real rewarding season and a real rewarding night.
A very rewarding night, and like you said, a lot of people, will remember this game because we won a state championship, but they'll probably remember this season for what happened the week before against Rochester to get us to this game.
Yeah, that'll probably be another classic classic video to go through, but we certainly earned our way to this game. There's no question about it, in a lot of ways, Scott.
Well, let's go back to November 26th, 2009, Metamora, Geneseo.
Sounds good.
Welcome back. Well, Coach, we're just moments away from the kickoff of this 2009 championship game. This is probably the most nerve-wracking part of the evening for you.
Well, yeah. I think the one thing that we benefited from is the fact that we had been there a couple years in a row, and our kids were kind of used to the drill. And of all the times, we finally got the home locker room. And so it just seemed like everything was falling into place. It was a beautiful night. But I think our kids were pretty relaxed because of the fact that 2 years prior, a lot of these kids had been in this venue, and I think that really played to our advantage. I mean, we were anxious, there's no question, but I think there were some advantages there. We could sense, and if you watch the look in the kids' eyes just during the starting lineup, between our kids and their kids, you can see a difference. You can see the difference. If you had to say which group of kids had been there before, you would say the Metamora kids had been there before. So that was an advantage for us.
That had to be a huge, huge advantage, though. But coming down to Champaign, it just really never really gets old, does it?
Oh, no. Every year's a journey, and you want it to last as long as you can because you put the pieces together throughout the season, and obviously you look at the scores there. We went down to Breeze in the quarters, and Breeze Mater Dei gave us everything we wanted. David Kinney made a fantastic interception to kind of turn the game around for us, and these kids were very resilient. The 09 guys would be considered as resilient a group as I've been around in my time at Metamora.
That year, you were led on the field offensively by Aaron Peters and Michael Fay, two really good running backs.
They're kind of going through the key players, and this young man was a very good fullback. And we saw Jason play a little bit more defense. He hadn't played defense, but he did show up fairly early in our game. Heck of a ball player.
Well, we're just minutes away from the start of the football game, Coach. This has got to be the most nerve-wracking part of the evening for you, isn't it?
Well, you get the game going. Yeah, there's a lot of things surrounding Memorial Stadium as well as this game. But again, I just feel that for this group, being in this venue for the last 3 years, it was not quite as awestruck. The kids weren't in awe of the facility. We could really concentrate on who we were playing, and that was a big factor. We tried to set up the reverse for the kickoff, and it was pretty well executed. We were one block away from being where we wanted. We caught them, and just a little bit of a block in the back there, which no question with the call, but it just kind of set the tone that we were gonna come get them.
Like you said, a little bit of a block in the back, but it really kind of set the tone, didn't it? That we were going to be able to move the ball, and our kids were not. They were there to win the game. They weren't just happy being there.
That's right. And I mean, based on the opponent we had beat the week before, I think that's exactly. They gained a lot of confidence there, a lot of respect for Geneseo, no question. The kids, they didn't necessarily, a lot of them all understand the total history. They weren't old enough. But I think as the week progressed, they realized there were so many texts and notes and things from former players and just, good outreach from our alumni. And they sense it was even a little bit bigger than what a normal state championship would be.
Over the years, Metamora, we've since last time we played Geneseo in a championship game, our uniforms changed. We have black pants, black helmets, no longer tearaways. Geneseos are the same.
Not too much. Not too much has changed, and great respect for their tradition. And came out and unbalanced and run a familiar play for us, our inside sweep series, basically. This group of guys, what a fun group. After the Washington game, we heard a lot of negative things about our offensive line, and to watch them progress and the way they played in this ball game was just fantastic. I mean, they really came together at the right time.
They weren't an overly big group of kids, but they really did do a nice job.
And pretty smart, pretty smart. We're able, and they worked well together. We had our many time, misdirection. And one of the things that you'll notice, Scott, as this game progresses is the camera's on Aaron Peters a lot when he doesn't have the ball. And he really became the poster child for how to carry out your fakes. He was fantastic at it.
The other thing too on this video of Metamora, the fact that a lot of these kids, they kind of put in their time over the years. The Grant Whittington, the Zach Garber, a lot of these kids, they'd really put in a lot of time waiting their turn, and what a fulfilling way to end your career in a state championship game.
No doubt about it. And they had to earn what they had, and that was, the fun part. There wasn't a whole lot of assumption that these guys were going to be able to play in a state title game. There's no question. I don't think anybody had that one reserved too early, right down to the the last seconds of the semifinal game. But, these guys, when they got to this game, were very poised, and that guy right there, Michael, he was in his own. I mean, everything slowed down for him, and we couldn't keep up to him. I mean, he was, get the next play in. We're ready to roll. And other than, a miscue here and that in the first drive where there you go. There's a prime example. They're following, and then all of a sudden they realize he doesn't have the ball. And even though we ended up punting on the first drive, when the kids came off, they knew they could move the football. And so our offense was really excited to get back on the field after that first one.
The other thing too is, as well as our offensive line did in this game, the Geneseo defensive line was pretty big.
Yeah, and they're pretty good. I mean, teams they hung their hat on their defense and not making mistakes on offense. They were a good defensive team. You had that was one of the few things that night that a few minor mishaps. We put it on the ground, and then that ended up being the difference. And that was probably about the only thing you could have said that Michael Fay didn't do right that night. So his, that was his mulligan right there. From then on, he was pretty efficient back there. One of the more efficient games we've ever had at quarterback.
Geneseo came into this game, and they had a kind of a strange statistic that they had been outscored, I think, by about 30 points for the season in the first half.
They're a very resilient football team, and that's why even as well as it went for us in the first half of this ball game, I don't think we were, going in overly secure. I mean, we felt good about it, obviously, but and then they scored first. So I think when we scored again in the second half, which we'll get to that, I think that one was the one that kind of really helped us settle down and say, hey, we got a shot at this thing now.
It's awful nice to be in a state championship game too, and we'll get to the end of this game, but to have a fourth quarter that you could just sit back and enjoy it.
Yeah, in this venue it's darn near impossible. We ran a screen and ran it pretty good, just was a little short. David, what a month of November David Kinney had. Very unassuming, but you go back and you look at the plays. It became one of those things where just in about every game of the playoffs, David Kinney had 2 or 3 big plays.
2 or 3, maybe 4 or 5 against Rochester.
Yeah, and the week before against Breeze Matter Day for that matter. But we didn't pick it up. It was 4th and 3, and of course at that point it was a little bit too far to go for it. And so, we bring Bo into punt, and again, Bo, what a guy, whatever we asked him to do, that was kind of the framework of this team. Very locked into everybody else, and the personal thing didn't really ever come up. So really enjoyable to coach a group of kids that totally got the idea of, hey, we got to do this together. Right down to the captains. Our 2 captains of this team were not necessarily considered, star players when you look at Jesse and Dane, but they were respected by their teammates for their efforts. So that's what it's all about.
One of the nice things about it is, Dane Kempf had been I believe a backup fullback the year before, and now he starts on defense at nose guard.
Yeah, he kind of found his home at nose guard, and it took a while to get that squared away, but he played several defensive positions. So Bo gets us a nice punt, and Derek, we felt like we had a great scheme against the wing T, and you'll watch our secondary guys roll in, just our belly play, and we're right after it. And there's a guy, our 2 linebackers, you look at him, particularly Brian. Brian Love was one of the better linebackers we've had in my tenure at Metamora, I know that. And, missed some games over 2 years of time because of injuries, but the guy was a football player. And Tommy, not great foot speed, but Tommy had a good nose for the football. And
Tom
again,
Beeman.
yeah, and those guys got better as time went on. So there's just a lot of individual success stories on this team that add up to what happened this night.
Geneseo, and we talked about the history between the 2 teams, but really this Geneseo is almost a mirror image of Metamora, isn't it?
Well, yeah, I mean, as far as tradition and wanting to run the football first, absolutely. They got us on this first counter, you'll see, and then after a while, they couldn't really get what they like to do done. And so we saw a lot more misdirection from them. And early on, because of their execution, we were a little slow getting there. But later in the game, we're pretty well locked in.
I believe here in a little bit they'll break one. The strange part of it is even when they break a long run, for some reason in this game it just never felt like it was going to hurt us.
Yeah. Well, and it all started with our ability to contain the fullback. That you're talking about similarities. We knew we had to take Johnson away. That was their guy, and if he got established, everything else would fall into place for him. And I thought, I have no idea what his rushing totals were, but they were insignificant.
I believe most of their yardage this game, aside from the drive to start the second half, but most of their yardage came on about 2 big plays.
Yeah. No, you're exactly right. There's what we're talking about. That was one of the keys of the game for us. If you watch our secondary guys fill inside, David does a real good job of reading the scheme there. They're trying to turn people out, and they had nobody to block the safeties. And but you got to have guys that can realize what's going on in front of them and react quickly, and David obviously did. And you know what? You don't have to be 6'2", 220 to fill a hole. He just with technique and quickness got us there. Now this next one is gonna be one of their plays, and I'm gonna make a point of emphasis here when he turns the corner here. We get caught up a little bit, and the kid busts it, but one of the things, if you'll watch, both guys are pursuing, but Danny makes a shoestring tackle that ends up, and the bottom line is they're going in for 6-0 lead, change the whole complexion of the game. And Burke makes a fantastic, just trips him up, and it ends up they don't score. We had 2 or 3 plays in this ball game that were like that. Burke, was involved in a couple of things like that throughout the tournament. What you get from that, not only in this ball game, is kids see that, and it's a friendly reminder to all our football kids in our program. That's why you pursue. You don't ever give in, because those kind of tackles can end up being game savers.
And when we're able to hold them, even if we force them into a field goal, and had they made it, it's still somewhat of a victory.
Yeah, I think giving the 3 at that point were big. But their second back through, which of course that's their belly and their bread and butter, we did a really nice job with it. And that's what you want to do. When you can have success defensively, you're taking what the other team wants to do away from them, and at least force them into a plan B. And I thought Coach Linder and the defensive staff did just that this night.
A couple more big defensive plays here. And again, getting back to what you talked about, our secondary coming up making big plays. It almost looked like his foot was stuck in the turf there.
Yeah. Well, and they came back to toss again, and I think they hurt us a little bit with counter, hurt us a little bit with toss till we saw it at game speed, and then when we adjusted and started fitting in the right places, we were able to contain it. So yeah, big third down here, and if I recall, they go unbalanced and they back out of it the last minute. They didn't like something that they saw, and we knew that were going to potentially get in unbalanced, and so I thought you can see our kids starting to realize and get squared away, and they do it quickly.
Nice play by David Kenny.
Yeah, and I think they saw what they didn't want to see. They saw a guy on the edge that wasn't going to be accounted for, and so they called the timeout right before.
One of the oddities of this game is you look out there and you see number 40 Vince Ferboni, sophomore. And little do we know that'd be the last, because of injuries, be the last time he'd play varsity football.
Two-way starter for us as a sophomore, and had a great sophomore season at the varsity level. And that's been unfortunate, that the fact that he wasn't able. On the bright side, I guess the positive side, Scott, is the fact that the young man got to play in a state championship game and be on a state championship team. Now, so they flip it, and what they saw, I don't know. You can see their unbalanced left here, and they try to power up there, and a really, really nice play. As you watch get up there, we were in the right spot there all the way around.
Kenny makes another nice play.
Well, and he was free. See, when those safeties can get downhill, they're hard to block. They don't fit into your schemes real well. But it was also a real nice play by Shaun Mckee here. He was in a slant and worked back outside, and nobody got a finger on him. It was a good play. Shaun was another guy that played several spots for us throughout the year and kind of unheralded and just got the job done, but an extremely intelligent football player, as were a lot of these guys. They were smart on their feet.
Mckee, probably not the biggest guy, the fastest guy, but he always seemed to be in the right place, didn't he?
Oh, yeah, that's right. He was not the biggest or the fastest, right. But it just goes to show in high school football you do things right. And as we're going into the third championship, all three of the state championship games, we can find those guys that have those characteristics. There's a reoccurring theme here, Scott.
Yeah, and that's kind of been how it is at Metamora, really. I mean, you can say not just the championship years, but all of the years.
We've been very fortunate, and it really is high school football. That really is what it's about. Is you got to have your guys, your game breakers, but you got to have those guys that can accept their role and it be meaningful to them, and that's what we see. So we went with the double handoff out of a different set. They played it pretty well, but it was still we started here and we started picking it up in 4s and 5s, and every first down you got, we were able to gain some confidence.
I thought another one of the guys on your team that was kind of an unsung hero was Daniel Burke, because he started at wingback, he started at fullback, and he started at quarterback, plus he played defense.
Mr. Utility, punt returner, kick returner. He had an outstanding senior year, outstanding. And, third string Q is, when you hear that, we're running our outside veer. Michael reads it, And there you go. You know, that's the kind of plays Burke made. He was hard to get to. Not too many guys got him one-on-one.
He wasn't a very big guy, but he sure did play with a lot of heart, didn't
Well, he played bigger than he was. There's no question. And no fear, you know. Dan was a guy that, you know, he played like he was 6'2", 240. You know, it's just that was his demeanor as he played. And he always wanted to be over top of the guy, and he always wanted the ball if we needed it the most. And he was a big factor. There's no question.
Nice compliment to Michael Fay and Aaron Peters.
No question. No question. And again, you know, our combination plays really, for whatever reasons, I mean, Michael was not an unknown, but our combination plays, we were working Aaron one side and Michael keeping the ball, as you can see. And we gave Michael the ability to read certain guys through the course of the game. And, you know, he was just on it. I mean, you could just tell he just had that quiet confidence. But he'd been there before.
Yeah.
You know, so it wasn't a new territory for him.
Starting to put together a nice little drive here, picking up some nice chunks of yardage.
Well, and it's funny, you watch the clock, the game goes so doggone fast because we're both running the football. And Aaron, I mean, you know, all-time leading rusher at Metamora High School in a season, and I think that most folks thought that one was safely tucked away. But and in his career, over 2 years' time, you know, he's legitimately right up there with anybody. You know, he just was a great high school running back, and he did all the intangibles well. He liked to block as much and carry out his fakes as much as he liked carrying the ball.
He caught one pass in his high school career,
Yeah,
but
it was a big one.
It surely was.
So we got him with the waggle, and we just a little bit high. I know Austin would have liked to have had that back, but he comes back, and he was pretty steady for us making the plays, and we've always needed those tight ends to be able to make those catches on the waggle. But protection was good. You know, you see a success story there in Lewandowski. I'll tell you what, you know, pound for pound, he might have got done as much in the trenches as anybody's we've had. He looked a lot like those 75 guys, you know.
Yeah.
Just get after it, not the size, but the get after it that makes a difference. We didn't think we did some trading and overload because we didn't think we were going to get a lot of adjustments, and we were able to handle their ends. And I'll tell you what, their defensive ends were good ball players.
Was this your best overall game of the year?
You know, it depends. I mean, you could certainly throw the Rochester game in there, and obviously there were more points scored, so you might say, well, maybe our defense didn't play that well. But I'm not so sure our defense didn't play well that day. We were just playing a very, very good offensive team. So, you know, you get through the quarter. We haven't scored yet, and I'm certainly not – we're not overconfident at this point. But I think our kids felt like when they came over, they felt like, you know, we're doing good. We're doing good. We think everything's happening up front like we think it's going to happen. And they were confident that they could move the football.
You know, I think, you know, like you said, it was 0-0 going into this quarter or second quarter. But I never really thought that Metamora was in trouble.
Well, and you know, arguably this second quarter might have been as good a quarter as we've had, you know, program-wise in a long time. It just, everything we wanted to get done on both sides of the ball seemed to happen. So we were truly blessed this evening. Went a little overload here. We'd done that in the past. And, you know, Aaron was so good at adjusting if things didn't happen right, about leaning and keeping his feet going. And, you know, again, I don't know, 180 pounds maybe, but he played bigger than he was. He was just such a hard runner.
He was awful strong and very, very fast.
Yeah, he was quick. And on a surface like this, you know, it's perfect.
Slight advantage for Metamora in the time-wise. And you know, actually, Geneseo had a pretty good first quarter.
Yeah, they did. And again, you know, pretty good at the point of attack on their part. You look up and, you know, we've got a 5-yard gain, and that was kind of the way Aaron was. Hey, I don't know how many negative carries he had in his career, but I'm pretty sure you could count them on one hand.
Yeah, he always seemed to finish upfield.
Yeah, he sure did. Great lean, and really quick acceleration. And we were able to mix up some formations. Our kids were locked in, and as you can see, we're not in the same set too often where they could get real comfortable. This one they played pretty well. We probably were in a give situation. So you give them some credit too. I mean, they were in the right spot, and we had to keep mixing it up in order to move the ball. And you'll see 35 there, he's a backside linebacker making that play. And that was their fullback, and he hadn't played a lot of defense that we had seen on film. But, it's a state championship. You're going to try to get every bit out of what you got. And that was a good play on his part.
Yeah, there's really no saving you for next week, is there?
No, sir. That's it. But Kurt was giving us some good information up top, and he really felt like if we went and bounced there, we could stick with Belly and get him off tackle and take some of those outside-in guys out of the box, which was fairly significant.
One of the other big things that helped you come playoff time was right at the start of the playoffs, you got Tyler Birch back.
Oh, yeah. The weird thing about this season, or unique, and one of the many unique things about this season, but we were healthier in week 14 than we were any time through the whole season. It's like we went the other direction. We got healthier as time went on, and getting Tyler back was big. Real good job there on this play, and I don't know if they rewind it, doesn't make any difference, but Aaron had a knack on the belly option where he wasn't getting the ball, cleaning up guys that maybe we missed the guy. Watch him clean up here. He just picks up the nose, and next thing you know, we've got everybody taken care of, and didn't overcoach that for sure. And nice to see guys getting downfield. Look at Tyler getting downfield, and really was happy for him. He had gone through a pretty substantial ankle injury and actually had cartilage transplant, which was a pretty big deal. And we thought he was done, and
then he came back, and that's a good lineman, another good lineman that you were able to have at your disposal.
Yeah, we're getting after him pretty good. That was kind of a strange finish to the run, but it's always nice to get that first one in. There's so much pressure on these kids. It's a state championship game, and you forget sometimes they're high school kids, and it's a completely different venue than any of your games, and we got after them pretty good. It was a nice drive for us.
Then your 10th-year senior, Van Meegum, comes on.
Yeah, he'd been there before. He's still there.
Yeah.
He's back. He's going to have more time in Memorial than anybody ever, Yeah, he's not the whole thing hasn't got him too shook up. It's like, this is just what we do.
This is actually...
I'm sorry.
It's actually only his junior year, though, isn't it?
Yeah. And he does end up missing one just to remind us that he's still a kid, not perfect. But boy, you wouldn't want anybody else. He certainly had a stellar career at our place. So yeah, look at Aaron again. The first time he contributed inside, he picked up. Second time inside was okay. He rolls out, picks up a guy on a perimeter. He just really had a nice knack for cleaning up wherever we needed him. And it's so many times when a guy's your leading rusher, the blocking end of what goes on is not that significant, but. In this case, that wasn't true. Aaron was every bit as proud of carrying out fakes and blocking. He really was a complete back for us.
So they dress him pretty young.
Yeah. That's neat to see. I mean, the two communities and just bringing back, that when two small towns can get together, they have. And a friend of mine, a classmate of mine, Steve Shears, is the band director for Geneseo. So we had a chance to talk before the game, and it made it just a really neat evening. And they had the Battle of the Bands at halftime. And there was just a lot of memorable things for a lot of different kids. Nice when you can do that. Keep the field long for them.
You've kind of continued that a little bit this year with Austin McVeigh kicking.
Yeah, he's done a nice job for us.
So you look at Metamora scoring drive, 12 play. Geneseo made you work for it a little bit.
Yeah. And, anytime you can take the ball 80 yards in high school football and do it over a course of double-figure plays, you have to be able to execute, and more importantly, you have to be disciplined. That means there weren't a whole lot of negative plays going on.
Now, do you think a lot of that has to do with the fact that you had some seniors out there? You had some senior linemen, you had some senior running backs that.
I'm sure it's a factor, and again, they keep coming back to wanting to establish the fullback, and like I said, I don't know how many yards the guy actually had, but there wasn't many. We did a nice job on Johnson.
The NCIC too back then, the old NCIC, that was kind of they all those teams up there kind of like to play a field position type of game where
sure.
It's a 10-3 or 14-7 type ball
That's
game.
right. It's a different mentality.
So when you're able to score and get these leads, because it never seemed like they were. This is another play
this is the second one. They misdirection out of unbalance, and Jesse makes a great tackle. This kid's a 100-meter dash guy. He can run, and we got a break. I don't know if there was some kind of procedure, I think, but more importantly, Jesse makes a nice tackle. He doesn't know that flag's on the ground, I'm sure.
No.
And Derek's making a point there. Edge-wise, we probably had somebody that got caught where they weren't supposed to. One of the rare times that night that happened.
I don't think. Well, they did put together a pretty nice drive to start the second half, but I think, for the most part, that's the end of their success offensively.
Yeah, we did a good job. Particularly in this quarter. There's Larry. Larry's a great guy. His dad was a coach there, and he knows what it's like to coach in your own hometown. It's different. But again, it's wonderful. There's no question.
Again, it's the mirror image of Metamora.
Yeah, and Larry's a class act. In fact, that night he texted me before we got out of Champaign and congratulated us and was very sincere, and a lot of mutual respect, and that's what it's all about. But you can see this game is rolling along pretty quick. There's nothing to stop the clock.
No. And they alluded to that in the pregame. The announcers for the game said that you could probably get some shopping done after the stores wouldn't be closed by the time this game was over.
You're right. So they come back to the counter, and this time
Shaun Mckee.
Shaun again. Yeah, and Joey was there, and our linebackers were pretty much locked in that night to fullback. So, our other guys outside in had to kind of take care of some things, and that's what we got. You watch Joey taking on pretty good pad level, and then Shaun and Jesse's right there. Just how you want to see that defended.
We weren't overly big up front, but we were pretty quick.
Yeah, and kids were pretty good. Those kids had some good time in the weight room. They were fairly strong for their size. And this was another thing, even though we don't get a lot of great return in this game, he caught the football.
Yeah.
Man had a very, very high percentage of catching the football on those punts. So many times when you don't catch them, they hit and they never seem to roll in your favor. They always seem. So, I don't know whether it's how many yards through the course of the season that makes a difference, but it's triple figures, I'm sure.
Now, and this may not mean anything, but I always heard, and I heard this a long time ago, and I think it was the Big Ten Network's greatest games. They had an old coach on doing the commentary, and he said when he coached, he always put a baseball player back to catch punts because they were used to catching the baseball or a ball out of the sky.
You got to have somebody, and you got to have a little courage too. Misdirection counter, we would have gotten this, and really, Nick was in pretty good shape there. Michael probably just chose to go the wrong direction, but later we come back and run that same play, and it cleans up pretty nice. And I'll tell you what, Nick Willman made a lot of progress in his 4 years at Metamora High School, and those are things that are just so rewarding as a coach, is to watch those guys develop from the time they come in to the time they graduate. And like you said, it's not just the state championship years. It's all the years you get to coach kids. But we were close on that one. That was a 4-yard gain that could have been a house situation there.
And you're right. I think had he chose to go under Nick Wilman, he might have been able to pick up a few more yards.
Oh yeah, and he'll come back with the waggle. Vinny, sure-handed guy all year long, and he really grew up as the season went on. He went from kind of being a little bit unsure early in the year, And again, another guy that by the time he got to November, and even at this point he was hurting a little bit and never really showed it and just kind of battled through it. But he had a fantastic month of November for us. And, two-way guy, sophomore. We haven't had a lot of those. You look at Duvey and Brad, but Brad even as a sophomore didn't. I mean, Duvey and Luring as a sophomore was just pretty much just a one-way guy. But again, they do a pretty good job of defending that, and Aaron slams it in there for 4 or 5.
It kind of made you wonder, how was he able to get, it looked like they have him bottled up at the line of scrimmage, and he still squeezes out 4 yards.
Well, it's two things. His leg turnover's good, he's hitting the hole hard, and his pad level's good. So you really can't get into him. You got to stop him from the side because you can't really get to him to stop him from the front. And there we came back with the counter read, and this time it was a give, and just such a slasher, and had a good feel for the guys in front of him, and we are, the guys up front were mobile. We could do, the kind of pulls and misdirection because we knew they could get around and worked well on their feet. And Ryan Otto did a really nice job of developing these kids, as he does every year. Those are his guys, and it's a progression, and I can't say enough for the job he did with this particular group of kids as well.
They really progressed from week 1 to the end of the season.
Yeah, there were some folks that thought all those guys should have been fired week 2, and but the kids never stopped believing in each other, and you know how important that is because they're the ones playing on Fridays.
And that had to make this game even more special, to know that the adversity they had gone through early in the season.
Oh, yeah.
To this point, and that game against Rochester, when that game was over, and to see that huge crowd, and at that point, I think most people in Metamora kind of believe that these kids really did. They didn't fold up the tent. They got better, and they end up having a whale of a year.
Yeah, well, and I think this group of kids, and it's what you ask of any group of guys, is get the most out of what you got. Put it all out there and just see what you can put out there, and that was neat to see because that's exactly what happened. And Michael's kind of getting in the confidence zone here. I mean, you can see he's putting together the right kind of numbers for us. And I think the game really slowed down for him. He played obviously really well the week before too, and just came into this game I think with a lot of confidence. Yeah, they had to eyeball that one. That was about as close as you could get and not be there.
So that's up a 2nd and 1, which is fine.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah. Getting to 4 down territory. It's like having 5 downs, 6 downs really.
4 down territory. Isn't that what your brother, every possession's 4 down territory?
Yeah, absolutely.
He just does not like to punt, does he?
Nope. So, yeah, it's 3rd and short, and, we kind of we're able to, get under center, get in our double wing, and they're wanting to bring guys, and you can see they're trying to get us to jump. Our kids don't bite. And Aaron does a good job of blocking for Michael again, and there we go.
Well, and at this point, it's got to be a little bit demoralizing for Geneseo. They'd gotten so close to taking an early lead, and now it looks like we're rolling.
Yeah, we're getting there. I mean, and if you don't get this one in, it can turn on you in a hurry, though. Momentum's really a funny thing in athletics in general, but I think in high school football, momentum is really it's fickle. I mean, you got to stay on it, and sometimes you can be really, really rolling, and you don't finish the job, and you got problems. Because you can tell their kids are still competing. They don't want to go down 14-0. They're not a team that scored a lot of points. They've kind of hung it on their defense throughout the tournament. So getting down 2 is not ideal. And again, as you're looking at the clock, at this point, thinking about us potentially being ahead 21-0 at halftime with 2:38 and it's 7-0 is not really something that too many people would have thought, would have happened. But
And you've got to be really feeling good about how things are going for you.
yeah, right now we're thinking, hey, let's get this one in, and no time, let's go in 14-0. We're good. We'd feel. Came back with the counter. Again, you can see Nick sets him up. It's clean, and Michael had to shake a little bit over one guy, but the guys up front set it up really, really nice.
Nice block by Nick Wilman. He'll get one later on that's even better.
Yeah, absolutely. But you can see it's clean. We get a nice kick out by Lewandowski. Nick's right there, and he put Michael in that position. And 9 times out of 10, he's going to make something real good happen.
Mr. Van Meegum comes on again.
This is the one he doesn't get, and one of the very few in his career he doesn't get.
And yet it does look good. If we've watched this, it may be a little deceiving.
It was close, but, obviously not the way he would normally hit one. But, hey, you wouldn't want anybody else in that situation at that time because he was pretty stellar. So, yeah, and you know what? You can see they're starting to blitz and take some chances, and we did a nice job of picking those guys up. There's just at this point a lot of really good communication going on up front. I think they were at the point where whatever they saw, they felt like they could block. Within reason, of course. I mean, there's if there's one too many guys there, but Geneseo didn't gamble that much. So everything they moved guys around a little bit, blitzed here and there, but they didn't put anything up defensively that our kids weren't comfortable with blocking, which is a credit to the kids.
So just 2:15 to go here in the first half. You're right. This half moved right along.
Yeah, it did. And we're thinking, hey, just keep it in front. But we're also thinking too, Scott, we've got some timeouts, and if they're going to hang and try to run it out and not get ahead in the count, we're going to use some timeouts. Give us a shot at the ball or block a punt or something. You want to give yourself one more shot. Obviously, we got the momentum right now, and so we want to keep them in the bag as long as we can.
A little bit shorter drive. You only had to go 58 yards, 9 plays. No penalties, I don't believe.
No, and the thing is, too, they made you earn it. I mean, they're not the kind of team that's going to give, we didn't get a lot of long runs in this game. We had some big plays in the second half, and we're going to have a big play before the half here, but they kind of limited that.
But you've run 21 plays on scoring drives, and you've not committed a penalty.
No, we executed real well. Again, they come back with the counter because they don't. We've taken away the fullback, so they're looking for some misdirection, and we're starting to lock in on it. There's Preston. Preston had a very, very good year for us as a D lineman and as a junior. And
big play, he and Lovey, big play the week before.
That's right. And that doesn't hurt your confidence either. But they really they started to accept their role on defense, and the pieces just kind of fit. They go back to fullback, and we're there, pretty good shape. Brian's there, and Tommy. And you can see our secondary guys are involved in a lot of downhill things too. Which Tommy on that particular play might have got it handed to him there. He got hit pretty good on that one.
Well, everybody's going to get hit a couple times in a game,
especially when you're playing Geneseo. They're not really recognized as a finesse bunch.
No.
So here they come back with the counter. You can see that's what they thought they needed to do to get it done. Now we're going to take that timeout. Now we got a chance, with a field goal kicker like Brennan, you get the ball in decent territory, and you really do have more than one option.
So now you're feeling really good about going. At the very least, you're going to go in 14-0.
Well, we're happy. It beats going in the locker room down 14-0. I know that, but we still, with the fact that every playoff game they had to get there, they were down at halftime, and that includes the first round game against Plano. And why I got that game on radio at home. I'm still not sure how that happened, but I listened to that game, and when I turned it on and they were down in the first round, I ended up listening. But this was a very resilient group of kids that they had, just a real good group, and it seemed like whatever they needed to happen to keep their season going, that's what they got done.
Do you think you might be the only guy that even looked to find that game on the radio in Metamora?
Well, yeah, I'm not. To be honest with you, I'm not sure how that all happened. But anyway, I had it on for a while.
So that the punt, a little bit of a shank, is going to give Metamora a great field position right around the 50-yard line. And I believe you come back with a double handoff.
We did go with the double handoff, and that kind of set the table for having an opportunity to score. And that was kind of Zach Garber's signature play for a good portion of the season, and he just had a knack for it. He didn't hit it too quick. He just found a way to hit it, and when he did, and sometimes those misdirection plays, you can get ahead of yourself, and he had a knack for it. He was definitely good running that play. And the way that Aaron was so explosive, he required just such quick movement that it really set it up nice. And there we go, we got through. And again, the camera's on Aaron, and there he goes. And now we're thinking, hey, wait a minute, we can put some more points on the board. It couldn't have worked out any better, Scott. I mean, we know that. I mean, we were very fortunate. But our kids stayed on it, too. They weren't satisfied. They knew they had a chance. And when we get down there knocking on the door with the time now, we're really excited because we think if we can get one more in, we're going to make it a pretty large hill to climb for Maple Leafs. And just, belly option, get out there. Michael's grinding in. We got the timeout, so we didn't have to panic. And again, we didn't have to burn any because a kid wasn't in the right spot or we weren't doing something. We were able to have those timeouts at the end of the half, and that's really important.
They just never really seemed to get a good shot at Michael, did they?
No. With the kind of strength that he had and the way he ran with power, you would think there would have been more opportunity for that. Nice crowd. It was a beautiful night, but just an absolutely fantastic crowd. And as all the state championship games, Metamora folks follow their football team, and it's a neat thing. It's very, very rewarding.
So you come out to for this. Now, at any point of this, did you think about just setting up a field goal?
Well, I'm sure we would have, but we still had some time, and that would have been built in, but we were still okay here. So, if you can get 6 instead of 3, you're going to take 6 every time. And I think our guys were just, feeling like they could get it done. I mean, we're right here knocking at the door. And Michael just kind of lets it happen in front, waits till, and, we got good movement. He actually cut it back. It didn't necessarily hit exactly where you'd want this play to hit. But, again, Michael was just so locked into what had to get done and just really, I don't know, for lack of a better term, he was in his zone. I mean, he was very, very comfortable with what we were doing. And that's a credit to the guys up front. I mean, things were happening in front of him like they should. And when, it's easy to gain confidence as a quarterback if that's what's going on in front of you. And he made the most of it. Well, we had to get 2 back. Not a real tricky play action, but a play action nonetheless. And we caught him digging in, and we got our 2 back and got even in the count again. And it was a little deflating, too. I mean, they had a chance 14-0. You score once, you're back within, you're 1 play away then. Getting that extra one and being 3 up, you got a little bit of cushion. And then if you can just answer, you're in good shape. So, obviously we felt it was one of the better first halves. in a game like this we'd ever had. I mean, there's just no question.
Boy, they really sealed that off there, didn't they?
And it was interesting that when we went in at halftime, it was really a very quiet, you think if we were ahead 21-0, we'd have had to settle them down because there would have been a lot of hoopla. No, they were like, let's get on the board, and we want to do better in the second half. And, that was just everybody was under control and still very businesslike at this point. And I also think that as a credit to the people they're playing. They had known that these guys had come back and won the second half of every game they had seen them play on film. So, 21-0 feels good. Don't get me wrong, but I don't think we feel like it's all wrapped up yet.
And a lot of these kids really, like you said before, they don't really know the history between Metamora and Geneseo.
No. I mean, they got wind of it. And, I mean, some that have been in our community longer certainly got a little bit better feel for it, but got some neat, one of our old high school coaches, Tom Gilhouse, was at the game, and he emailed me and, just said how kind of took away some because he was obviously on the staff when Geneseo beat us those 2 years. And, just the ripple effect of winning this game to a lot of people, much like in 2000 when we beat Geneseo at our place in that fantastic game.
There were players on this team whose parents were little babies when they played back in the 70s.
Yeah. I guess it's just one sign we're both getting older, huh? So, but anyway, we're tickled to death, and we're feeling good about things, and it was just really, really fun. I mean, like I say, it's a lot easier to go in the locker room 21-0 than it is, and we've gone in the locker room being down big, so we know what it feels like to go into those locker rooms in a state championship when things aren't going well.
Yes, and it is a lot better going in 21 points up.
Yes, sir.
Well, we'll be back in just a few minutes with the second half. Well, we're just moments away now from the start of the second half. You come out of the halftime locker room. Again, you got to be feeling really good about this second half, up 21-0, and you're getting ready to kick off to Geneseo, but you're still up 21-0.
Well, there's certainly a good feeling with that, but we tried to, and we alluded to this earlier, that the kids stayed focused during halftime because I think you have, when you're playing this kind of program, their kids aren't going to quit. So they're going to make some adjustments. They're going to talk about some things they need to do better. They're going to continue to compete. And for them, the one thing that was a little bit of a concern is, they had been behind, and we alluded to this, they had been behind in every game of the tournament at halftime, but yet found a way to win. So we're not out of the woods yet, but I mean, getting that third score before the half did give us, I guess, for lack of better terms, a little bit of a cushion, but there's still a lot of football to be played at this point.
Now, do you really go ahead and make any changes? You're up 21-0, but you're not probably going to make any wholesale changes, are you? You're just going to tweak a few things.
No, we're talking about some things in packages that we had not used yet, some wrinkles that we had going into the game, and we'll get to those when we start the second half. So the kids knew we had some other things to do off of maybe some of the things that we did in the first half. So there was a quiet confidence in that offensively. Defensively, no changes. I mean, we were playing well other than giving up a big play or two, but our scheme defensively we felt was sound, so it was just a matter of making sure we executed our defense.
Now, Metamora is, like you said, just a few minutes away from kickoff here. It becomes kind of a chess match then, doesn't it? They're going to make a few, probably.
Well, yeah, you're going to make sure. But the thing is, and you know this, and we're probably guilty of this too. We're not, they know the second. It's about execution with them. They're not going to come out and do something we've never seen before. They're not going to come out and lonesome polecat or something. They're going to be Geneseo, and so it's just more of the same. And with a wrinkle or two, they threw the ball, which we're going to talk about as this drive takes place.
Nice hit on the special teams.
Yep. Yeah, our kids are getting after it. Both teams. It's You know, why wouldn't you? It's fun. You're on, you know, you're playing in a state championship.
Last game of the year.
Yeah. And, you know, some of those guys on kickoff, that's what they're on. They're young. That's what they get on. And, you know, they're gonna get after it.
You know, this team kind of, to me, it always looked like you had a bunch of linebackers out there playing on the defensive line.
We weren't, yeah, you know, you're right. We weren't overly big. And again, you know, trying to establish a fullback, I thought we did a real good job of containing him. He was their guy. And the teams that we talked to that had played them said, hey, you got to start with stopping the fullback. And that was a key. That was the key of the ball game.
They looked like they were pretty big up front.
Good size, no doubt about it. You know, and they always have big tackles. They clone them up there, I think.
But you're right. I think, you know, we talked about it early on. Our kids were there to win a football game, and they were really just happy being there.
Yeah, well, and I think, again, we alluded to this. It's the fact that you've played in this venue for 3 years in a row. We really benefited from that. And I thought we played well. I mean, I think we played well.
How neat was it for you, though, to play Geneseo?
Well, I mean, the history and everything. I think I've been at every. I think I've actually been at every Metamora Geneseo game. I'm sure I'm not the only one, but and in a lot of different capacities. So yeah, there's no doubt about it, and they're fun. They go a little unbalanced here, a little play action. We got a guy out, and they drop a guy in the flat, and you know, well executed play. We missed a guy there, and allowed them to get a first down. But again, it's one of those things where they're not going to quit, you know. And they took a chance on an unbalanced and threw it, a little uncharacteristic of them. But you know, at this point, they have to take chances. And I thought their quarterback really made some nice throws. There's a throw he makes here later in this drive that, you know, we're not in bad coverage. He just makes a very, very good football play.
Is that the one down here by the
sidelines? Yeah. So then they come back with the sweep, which was where they got their big gain, and it was an unbalanced sweep, and they got the lane they wanted. They caught the guy, they caught the linebacker, and created a seam. And you know, we were in position, we just didn't react real well. You can watch. I got a cave down. You can see we don't have a linebacker in a position to make a play, so our guys in the secondary have to make the play.
You know, different names, different players, but it's the same offense they've been running since they had leather helmets, isn't it?
Yeah, well, and Lemke's a good ball player. They got a break here, and it just was one of those things where he got stepped on and couldn't get, you know, it was a reverse out and he couldn't get it. We could have just as easily had that one, but you know, you can see the right guard caught him, and heads up play by their fullback.
Pretty lucky to get the ball back.
Yeah, well, and I mean, you know, those things happen, but you got to have a little bit of presence of mind too. The fullback, obviously, you know, he got on it pretty quick. So yeah, we had him down in a count here, and you know, and they're going to take some uncharacteristic chances, but they have to, given the score. So they run the waggle back to the weak side, and we do a good job. We covered it up. Probably not a play they had run much, but we did a good job of getting to where we needed. So, and I give them credit. I mean, 3rd and long for them is as bad as third and long for us. That's not our deal. You know, when you're spread offense and you know, 3rd down's the same as 1st down, but we're about, you know, controlling the clock and getting the count in our favor. But you got to give their kids credit too, Scott. It's 21-0. You know, it's a little bit uphill for them already, but they come out aggressively and keep playing the game, which is typical of a great program like Geneseo. So they fake the run that they had success with, and David, there's the throw I was alluding to. David covers it pretty well. The kid put it in a nice spot.
He was a nice-looking passer.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, they made some plays there, and Lemke was a good ball player. They really had 2 really, really good backs. with Lemke and Johnson. So, yeah, they're still competing. And, we were a little disappointed there. But really on that one, David was pretty darn close. The kid threw a good ball. But that's what you want to have to create those kind of things is they gotta make a perfect play. You don't want it to be breakdowns, and it really wasn't. They come back to sweep, got us on the edge. We didn't turn it back in, and so all of a sudden they're thinking, hey, we've done this every week in November. We're going to do it again. And we knew that. I mean, our kids, not that we knew they were going to score. We were disappointed they scored, but we knew their kids were going to keep competing.
And that third score right before halftime really was big.
Yeah, we talked about it. I mean, in that one, we would have been happy. It's a whole different framework of this game if it's 14-7. Because now they're one play away, and obviously they were capable of breaking a couple. I mean, they did the first drive. They almost scored. But two, it gives you. So, to me, at this point, based on what they had done in the past, and we had a dumb, not an aggressive penalty. I mean, he wasn't trying to hurt the kicker. He just got caught in a bad spot and, roughed him up a bit. So, we're not going to get good field position. To me, this next series is a big part of how this ball game goes. Because now, for the first time, other than early in the ball game, they got the momentum. I mean, and all of a sudden, hey, we've done this before. It took them, 2.5 minutes to get it down and score. Maybe we're going to get this thing turned around.
Nice play by Geneseo. You got to give them credit for that.
Well, they know how to block. I mean, they know how to get after you up front, and so there's no question. Dane he had a bad angle. He came through straight ahead. It's one of those angles where you're not coming from the side, and he didn't mean to hurt anybody. I mean, I have no fault with the penalty, but, it's not like it was malicious or he was trying to hurt anybody. So when they kick from your 45, you're not. But, here's the thing. They dinked it in there, and so they could cover it, and they did a really nice job. So what I would say there is they had worked on that. That wasn't something that was new to them. And that's a credit to Larry. They're a well-schooled ball club. They don't leave many things for chance there. They know how to coach their kids. They know how to coach situations.
Now, were you thinking at that point, they're kicking off from our 45-yard line, maybe an onside kick?
Well, we talked about it. You're exactly right. We talked about it. And they didn't do either of what we thought. We thought, well, they're either going to kick it in the end zone or they're going to onside it. Instead, they dinked it, and they covered it well, and we're inside our 20. So we come out and tight, just kind of check things out and motion across like we'd done in the past and run Michael on the counter. Again, we didn't break it, but they had trouble with that misdirection play. They really had trouble with that play. And I think that's a credit to Aaron. Aaron ran so stinking hard and always was carrying out his fakes. We got those linebackers to take those false steps, which is what we wanted.
Nice blocking up front, too. Some guys putting some Geneseo players on their butts.
Yeah, very good job working through some combination blocks, and you can see they're starting to move guys around. They're not setting. They're getting out of their base defense, and our kids are a little crisscross counter there. Same blocking scheme we used for Michael, just different action. That was the first time we had used that, and just kind of I guess for lack of a better term, a cross buck out of the shotgun. And those are the nice things, and that's what we try to get through to the course of the season, is being able to make those little subtle adjustments off the same blocking schemes. Give them a different look, and these guys really progress through the course of the year with that. And we're mixing formations, but we're still essentially running what we do. In our G scheme with Aaron cross court and Air 61, and we're in a rhythm. And it was important because they have momentum. We come right back out and put together a really, really nice drive.
I think Aaron Peters breaks one here pretty soon.
He was due. He was getting anxious. because early on he was getting all the hard yards, and because they were keying on him, I think, and then Michael was the one that was benefiting. Belly option scheme, and Michael's allying it good. And we talked about the fact that we blocked it well up front. Aaron had good vision there as he worked through that. Sometimes he was able to get outside and pick off the guy. Sometimes if there was a guy that snuck through inside, he picked off that guy. So very versatile blocker, complete player, just a real hard-nosed kid and fun to coach from the standpoint of you got his best effort every play. So, yeah, I think our kids have confidence. And they're dropping their tackles down. They're changing their fronts a little bit. Our kids are picking up. You can see, and there you go. Really the same scheme the other way. We're pulling the guard. We're able to get on the front side like we like to when we trap block. We're sealing off the down blocks, and, we're just playing good football. You can see everything walled off.
He didn't get touched, did he?
No. That's not that you or I would have scored there. They would have rallied, but it was a nice hole and a good answer in a short amount of time. They score with 3 minutes. We turn around and scored again with 2. I think now we just have to match them, and we're in good shape. Not that our defense feels that way, but from the practical standpoint is, our running game. We're running the football pretty well. We got 2 guys that are close to 100 yards at this time, and we hit them with the double handoff. And I'll be honest, we're just really thrilled right now. We're not assuming anything, but there is a quiet confidence going on right now on our sideline.
Yeah, I think that up in the stands it was more than a little quiet confidence there.
Well, and after all the angst we'd had, we had the year where in '76 where we were in pretty good shape against Geneseo and lost a close ball game and lost to them in '77 in the championship. Obviously we'd beat them in the postseason, but not at this venue. So there's a lot of old wounds that maybe get a night to heal a little bit. And from a coaching and if the kids don't get it, I think the coaches obviously do. But more importantly, it was about this group of kids and what they were able to overcome through the course of the season. There's no question about it.
One of the few schools in the state that can say they've won a 3A, 4A, and 5A title.
Well, we don't. Yeah. It's kind of interesting how that works, but
fairly nice return, but also you could say pretty good coverage there too.
we try to use the 25 realistically if it doesn't go in the end zone. The 25 is a pretty good gauge of your coverage. So yeah, our ability to turn it on them right back and put the pressure right back on them.
Kind of took a little bit of that momentum back away from
them. No doubt about it. And they had made a couple great plays doing things that they don't normally do.
So now this is a big series for your defense.
Absolutely. Because they got to decide, are we going to stay with and they go back to fullback, which, we're okay with. We feel like we got that under control, and the clock's going to run. But we're the same way. You're going to be who you're going to be. You got to be able to execute what you do. And obviously they've had a tremendous amount of success doing what they're doing. Larry's a fantastic high school football coach.
Grew up in Geneseo too, didn't he?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He was a ball boy. He's been the whole gamut, and a good friend of mine. So they run the waggle. We got it. We were close, but again, it's a heck of a throw. And they threw to 85 a few times. Nice size tight end, and the quarterback it's good play action. It's not necessarily that we're bad or doing anything wrong. Look, our coverage is good. Just a nice throw. So, they're still competing. Came back the same toss they had success with it. That's what you want to do. You want to make game adjustments. We played it better. We turned it back in. So, they went back to what worked, which makes sense. But the unbalance got us once, and we got caught a little bit inside, and this time we adjusted and did well.
57 yards might be a season high for them passing.
Yeah, I have no idea, but it certainly might be. So 2nd and 10 is what you want to get Geneseo in. It's like same with us. Pretty good job. Again, we got really good fill from the secondary. Dan Burke's making that play. David Kinney made plays. When you can get your secondary locked in, you can see they're getting on our linebackers a little bit, but both our secondary guys, 10 and 13, are in on the tackle. And that's the key to defending the wing T offenses, because they're similar to us. It's hard to block those downhill safeties. And they played really well.
Now it sets up a 3rd and 7. That's really not where you want to be on 3rd down, is it?
No, it's not comfortable for them. It's not comfortable for us. But you can see they're going to more of their unbalanced left here, and trying to sneak guys out of the passing game. We contain the Q a little bit better. Joey does a good job there, and he had to throw it off the back foot. So we got what we wanted there. Now if we can keep getting stops and not turn the ball over, we're going to be in good shape.
Think we might win?
We're getting close to thinking that we're heading in that direction.
Weizig did a nice job there too of breaking down and not going in out of control. And
yeah, that happens sometimes too, especially when you're going after a quarterback.
So now your defense comes up and makes a nice stand, gives the ball back to your offense.
Yep, and we alluded to the fact too, we catch the punt. I mean, Danny was just fearless back there. And we've had guys like that, but he certainly is ranked right up there as one of those guys that, hey, just catch the football. Being a good punt catcher, you got to have a little courage. First of all, you got to have some confidence in yourself, and those are the things that you got to do well that people may not realize. Like, well, hey, he caught a foul, keep moving the chains, keep the clock going, because the clock is your friend when you're ahead 28-7.
Did this, getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here, but because these kids had been kind of maligned a little bit, was this a little bit sweeter?
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. The difference, and obviously it's hard to compare. 07 was just such a fantastic season. I think this one was a little bit more surprising to people, there's no doubt. And was it a little harder to get done? Without a doubt, I think all the kids would say that. I mean, but they're all fun. I mean, anytime we always talk, even the ones where we didn't win, getting to that final game, taking it to 14 weeks. There's no more games to be played. That's when you can be gratified. There's no more football in Illinois after this week, and you want to play as many games as you can because it's so doggone fun. They're starting to pick up a little bit on it. Good defense does. We're still running the quarterback counter. Maybe not as big as what we did earlier, but we still think it's there. They're just doing a little bit better job at defending it. And now, again, we're not gonna run any plays we don't have to. We probably got one more. I think maybe we do.
One more play, and that'll be the end of the 3rd quarter. Yeah. And boy, this quarter went by in a heartbeat.
Come back to the same doggone play that we ran off. We gave it to Burke the first time, and then the second time, coming back to that. Really nice. Well, you're going to see it, but really nice block by Nick Wellman.
Yes.
Coming through there.
He almost had it the first time, made a real nice block the second time, and then this time.
Watch. We got her sealed off. Here he comes. The guy tries to work outside, and he just puts him on his back. Yeah, it's a good play. And that guy is a good ball player. It's not like you're doing it against. This is a state championship. You're doing it against some guys that know how to play defense.
Michael had a pretty good game through 3 quarters, didn't he?
Yeah, but again, and he'd be the first to tell you, everything happened up front like it was supposed to. Just take care of it and do your thing because we're getting it done. Yeah, it was a little right there. Brendan would say, golly, I should have made that, and he should have.
He made the one that really counted, though, didn't he?
Well, yeah, it's not like we're, he's got enough fine moments to his career that's not something that's a problem.
So we're 2 seconds away from the fourth quarter, and you're up 34-7. So your lead from halftime is extended, and now you got to be feeling really good.
Yeah, keep them in front. No big plays. And again, clock is your friend. So let's keep playing. Let's keep them in front. If they want to run it, fine. But let's not give them the big play. Let's not give them the quick score. Let's not give them some hope now. We want to make sure that we don't give them the opportunity to get any kind of momentum. And we did that. We really did that.
One of the other things I thought was really neat was before the game, you kind of walk around the stadium and you saw people with, Geneseo people with letter jackets from 1977, 76. You saw Metamora guys getting out their old dusty letter jackets.
Yeah, there was a lot of bad fitting letter jackets in both sides, yeah. But, again, that's what it's all about, small town tradition and these kind of games, obviously playing these guys, we've been on the other end of it, but it doesn't take away from the community's excitement and support in these kind of games. I'm sure they went back, had a little time to reflect. This night was disappointing for them, but I'm sure when they reassembled and had one final get-together with this group of kids of theirs, there was a lot more things to be happy about and proud about than there were disappointment. And believe me, we know, because we have been we've been on the other end of it. We've been in enough of these that we know how it feels on both sides. But the season itself is still very, very rewarding either way. You want to win them, but there's still a lot to be had about the journey.
And if you lose, you kind of forget about that a little bit. You remember the other 13 games that you won and you had a great time and you were able to go to work and brag.
Yeah, well, and for the kids, it's just, it's that month of November to be able to play all the way to the end. Like I said, when this weekend's over, there is no more football. You don't cheat yourself. You're playing as many. Now they're starting to they know they got to have a big play. Now they're not getting it off the play action. They're getting into some things that, and you got to have a plan B, but they're now starting to get into some things that they don't really want to do, and that's when you can feel a little bit comfortable as long as you keep it in front of you.
3 penalties in the whole game. Pretty well played football game.
Yeah, it speaks well of both teams. In a well officiated game, they're not looking for little ticky-tacky things. They're letting the kids play the game, which is what you want. You call the obvious. You can't let go, but you don't go looking for stuff, and that's why guys like that are working in the state series. They understand that. Second back through, which is their bread and butter play. You want to try to establish something after they take a shot up top. And again, Scott, at this point, we're just watching that clock. Anything that keeps that clock going, we're happy with.
I believe this was the first time Geneseo had made it to the state championship in Champaign.
Yeah, that's right. And so, great tribute to their kids. Now they're really unbalanced and trying to solid their protection, looking for a play. Nice throw again. Nice throw. Burke's right there, and a nice throw.
The way he throws the ball, you kind of wonder why they maybe didn't open it up a little bit more early.
Yeah, I'm sure that, that the thing could be said about the guys in red too. You do what you do.
Yeah.
But he certainly did throw the ball well this game. And maybe it's one of these that happens here in a little bit. Good throw, good play action. Probably had a step on him. They would have. Not that David was bad, but if he'd had a perfect throw, they might have got it.
I believe they try another pass here in just a little bit. A big rush by the Metamora defense, the front 4.
Well, you can kind of change your mentality a little bit. You can take a little bit more chances up front because they probably have to go to a little bit different type of offense than what they're accustomed to. Come back the inside counter. They had not run that. They had run the outside counter, snuck it back inside, and we reacted pretty well. Again, keep it in front. Anything that runs the ball, keeps the ball in front of you, we're okay with. And they're in a situation where, do we take a shot at it or do we go into damage control and try to take her down and score too? And like I said, the only reason I say that is we've been on the other end of it. At this point, can they, nice run on their kids' part. They did a nice job. Again, that was a toss sweep. The way they're bringing it, you don't see it a whole lot. They execute it very well, and all it takes is one outside shoulder to get caught, and they get the leverage on you. We're trying to get there, but you have to turn this play back in. They're going to have success because they're getting it off the edge. So we probably got caught peeking in the kitchen a little bit on the outside, and once they get you sealed, then you're inside out chasing, and they're going to get some yards. Play action off the unbounce. Real good pressure here. Dan makes a great play. What a run this is. I know it gets called back, and it rightly so, but, this guy with the ball in his hand's fun to watch. This was one of the funner plays of the season. Unfortunately, keeps back, and you'll see his reaction when he sees the flag. He is so doggone tickled, and everybody's like, wow, that was something to watch and be a part of, and then you realize there's a flag, and then he realized there's a flag. It's like, oh, darn it. I just did that. But it wasn't insignificant because he intercepted the football. The bottom line is, we didn't get it where we wanted, but we still got to watch him run, and we still got the football. Yeah, so it's okay. Yeah. And it was a good call. Like you said, there weren't a lot of penalties, and it was a good call. It was unfortunate. I don't know if that penalty would have affected how he ran. It wasn't one that freed him up, but it was a penalty.
Can you really explain how that play was able to work so well with him?
Well, my belief is one of the reasons that play works well to begin with is it gives you that third dimension. So much of what we do is a two-back set. I think a lot of times, they had a certain, group of guys that were responsible to make sure that Peters didn't get where he needed to go, and I think they spied Michael a lot. What I mean by that is they would have a linebacker that would normally pursue that would just stay right there and keep an eye on Michael. The problem with that is if you're not looking at schemes, then you have a situation where if the scheme warrants you to go another direction, you're not going because you're locked into the backfield. And here comes this third dimension that, we've gotten a lot of mileage out of that play. It's not unstoppable by any stretch. There's no play in football that's unstoppable. It just gave us that third dimension. And because Aaron was so good at turning the corner, that set up Michael. And the fact that Michael was so good at getting it north-south, you had to kind of choose what you were going to lock in on. And it wasn't going to be the wingback. I think they were going to take their chances there.
But it seemed like so often he would get that handoff and he would turn the corner and there would be nothing.
Well, and Zach did a really nice job of getting the ball where it needed to be afterwards. I mean, he had to work through some traffic sometimes. It's different traffic because sometimes the guys he ran through could have reached out and grabbed him at any time, but they didn't know he had the ball. But he had kind of an idea of the path he had to take to get there. So now, you're thinking, hey, we got to get some kids. We want to make sure we get a lot of hard-working kids on the field, which we were able to do. One of those guys being Bo Geyer, who was very instrumental whenever we needed him over the course of his career at the quarterback spot. Get some young kids in there. Just you're wanting to get as many kids in the ball game as you possibly can, for obvious reasons. Which I think that our philosophy is, and it's been, is that's our weekly motive. We ask a lot of kids. So the most important thing we got to do is, and we don't always get all our kids on the field. I would never insinuate that, but we're certainly going to try. And there's nights where we play teams and the game is at hand and we look across and it's the same kids playing. It's just difference in philosophy. And at this point, I mean, they know. They're going to do what they do and get their main guys a few more carries. And we've got some backups in there now, and Lemke makes a great run. But, that's okay. We're not totally cleared out, obviously, because there's David. And that's the third from behind tackle we made to save a touchdown in the night. It's just interesting. Kids just kept playing.
You're up 41-7. It would have been very easy for him to just let the guy go.
Yeah, get the ball back. No big deal. And we made some mistakes here. Excuse me, a kid made a heck of a run, too. A good athlete.
Kind of expect that in a Metamora Geneseo game, though, don't you?
Well, you hope so. I mean, yeah, I would say so. Come back to Waggle, it's what they do. Misdirection, good pressure, and Tommy gets one. So I'm looking out there. We haven't quite changed our lineup just yet. That was a series early on that.
Lemke has had a nice game.
He had several nice games. Good athlete. Good two-way player for him. One of those guys that when you're watching him on film, you realize that a guy you're going to have to contend with on both sides of football. Yeah, they were a good team. I mean, they had some good players. Maybe not a bunch of game breakers, but as far as playing the game hard and being able to win some ball games, they obviously had earned their way there. There's no question about that.
And they kind of played the Geneseo way, like we talked about earlier. They win the games 14-7, 10-7. They're not worried about scoring a lot of points. They just want to get good field position, run some clock, and win the game by 1 point.
Put yourself in a position to win the ball game. That's what it's all about. The spreads and the predictions and all that stuff is really insignificant. It's about winning the ball game. And obviously they know how to do that.
When you come down and you get the police escort through town with the chartered buses and you go by the tents and the Metamora fans are out there, that's got to give you goosebumps, doesn't it?
No doubt about it. Very memorable for the kids and the coaches as well. I mean, it's very gratifying, and just the support of the whole thing, And the fact that it galvanizes a community and it's something that can be, I guess a bonding thing where people have the same thing to talk about. But that small town, I mean, if they don't have a relative on the team, they probably did at one time. We always tell the Redbird parents when we have the last one of different families, once you're Redbird, you're always a Redbird. And at this point, we can start the hugs. That is a very, very fun and wonderful situation to be in, and you can't give them enough hugs because you're just so proud of what that group was able to accomplish. We didn't win our league. If you're not going to win your league, the best thing you can do is come out and win a state title. That kind of reduces the. We'd like to have had that game back, but this will suffice.
What would have been more gratifying, winning a state championship or getting another shot at Washington?
I don't think there's anything that compares to winning a state championship, and the reason I say that is it's the process. We got to be together for 14 weeks, and
longer than that, really.
But I mean, obviously, we got to play the maximum amount of games in the state of Illinois, and that's fun because no matter what, that's as many games as anybody gets to play. So we didn't have a week where, golly, there were some guys getting to play football in the state of Illinois, and we weren't one of them. So,
and when you think about it, this is only two other teams from Metamora won 13 ball games.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, obviously the tournament's expanded, but you're exactly right.
Actually, three.
We can talk about some of those teams that didn't win, and you can compare teams and those kind of things. But those were pretty gratifying years too. I mean, and we talked about it, and some of the guys that have been on both ends, Jim Unruh at Carthage and Illini West, and said, winning it is. The ultimate, but making sure you get 14 weeks of playing time and getting to play in that venue is really, really fun. And if you're fortunate enough to win, it's even extra special. But we had a lot of teams that played very, very well and were very willing to be coached that played in the game and just fell short. So this was kind of for them too.
And there's a fumble on the play, and Metamora does recover this, I believe.
Rare turnover by them.
Great pursuit by your defense there, too.
Yeah, and now we do have another group. Brian's still in there, but, a lot of the guys that hadn't got to play were in. And fun to see, that young man had a kind of tough go with an ankle injury the following year. But I'll tell you what, when he was in there, he was an awfully good football player.
It's just really a shame because there aren't many nicer kids than that. His varsity career was really cut short.
Well, yes, it was, and I will say this. He was probably the best player that Metamora's ever had that was not an all-conference player, or arguably one. Before there's, all-conference selections are, what they are, but he was one of the better players in our league for 2 years.
And he kept getting cut short, the ankle injuries, the shoulder injuries.
Yep.
And,
Great demeanor. All right, so we're going to get to have some fun and get some guys that have certainly earned it, and there's one right there. Number 12 was a really big asset to our program. You come in, you're in the same class with Michael Fay, and you've got skills and probably could have started for several teams in our league. Never qualmed with it, always was a team guy first. And I can never say enough about Bo Geyer. You just don't run into kids that have that kind of frame of mind. And I've told him that personally several times that you're just extremely honored that you can coach kids like that because at a lot of places it just doesn't work.
I believe he's playing at Monmouth now.
Yes, yeah, he's at Monmouth. We have several guys right now that are at Monmouth playing. So, yeah, it's just so good to see some of these guys that have, and they're having fun. I mean, they're tickled, just to get out there now in a state time, Curtis Wayman and Hildebrand and some of those guys that are seniors that, were non-starters but Lemke in, and they're getting after it. There's Curtis with the block there, and you got Chucky, young sophomore there, and Bo grinding it out, so this is a good situation,
Lemke did a nice job filling in for Tyler Birch during the season.
Yeah. I mean, Joe gave us everything he had. I mean, obviously Tyler probably had 60 pounds on him and could run, and getting Tyler back was a big factor in this season too, Scott. We don't want to, I'd be remiss if I didn't. He kind of, gave us that one extra guy, that big athletic guy. And so there goes Chuck. We're still seeing that. So Travis is in there. So, I don't know. You're just right now, you're just really kind of in shock. Do we know? And there's another guy out there, Colton Willett, what a contribution he made throughout the year for our football team. And it's just fun. That's all I can really say. You got a lot of kids out there that hung in there, and this is the benefit of that, winning a state championship in fine fashion.
It's always nice when you can get your second team, and or just not even your second team, just your backup players into the game.
Sure. Fergie.
Because this will be a memory when they come back for their 25th class reunion.
Yeah, the whole season, really very, very memorable.
It's funny how a lot of kids go on and they become successful in other things in life, and when they come back for their class reunions, I'm sure one of the first things they talk about is playing football.
Sure. Well, and you hope so. I mean, John Vogelsang spoke to our team one time, and he talked about the kids to the kids, and it was something that always hit home with me about that you're playing, you're playing for your memories right now. I mean, the things that you're going to talk about the rest of your life, and there's a certain extra accountability to that. What I do appreciate about Geneseo, sometimes you get in these situations, maybe a kid's going to try to do a little something extra, and out of frustration, but obviously Larry's got a very disciplined team, and they're still playing hard, but they're playing the right way. And that's what the good programs do. They don't let the game, the factors of the game, ruin how they should play the game. They still continue to play the game right. And you'd like to think that's a trademark of our program if we were on the other side of it, and have been. You just keep playing hard, keep playing the game the right way. You're not happy with the results. So we know. We've been around long enough to have seen it on both sides. And I will tell you, it's better on this side. I'm not going to fib about that.
It would have been nice too if we could have kind of thrown back uniform, come out this game with some tearaway jerseys.
Yeah. Well, these guys, I understand what you're saying, but these guys deserved what they got, the way they got it, with what they wore and what they did. And so we wouldn't want to take anything away from them.
Probably never knew what tearaway jerseys were.
No. But we're done, and just what a thrill, what a gratifying moment. You're a little bit in awe of everything. As hard as it had been to get to this point, then I love that they listened to me right down to the end. They wanted to dump the cooler on somebody, and I saw them coming. I said, go dump it on Coach Delinsky, and that's exactly what they did. So I was happy for Coach D. He got the cooler. I was dry, and that worked out okay.
So they listened to you even when it came to that.
Yeah, right. Even with the dump, they were willing to be coached on that one too, which was really good.
And to think that they didn't have to worry about maybe running a few extra laps on Monday.
No, there's no. That's it. They didn't have to worry about up-downs.
So you wait 32 years to get Metamora's second state title. Now you wait 2 years and you get your second one.
Very gratifying. Just another great group of kids. One of many groups of kids that not all our kids have been fortunate enough to win a state championship, but this night was very memorable, and how the kids approached it was tremendous. It was just a fun year.
Well, that'll do it tonight. It's sure a lot of fun coming back and watching all these old games again, isn't it?
Yep, and we got more to go. It's going to get funner. These are great, and there's just more fun to go. So we look forward to them every week.
So that'll be it, and we'll see you next week for more Redbird Classic football games.